Imagine this. You're standing at the threshold of an apartment that feels frozen in time. The walls are lined with tall wooden shelves, crammed with books in German, English, and mathematical symbols. Yellowed pages poke out from old journals. Faded sunlight filters through dusty curtains. The air is thick with the scent of old paper, chalk dust, and a lingering trace of pipe smoke. You step inside. The floor creaks beneath your feet. To your right, an old phonograph humming faint notes of Bach. To your left, a chalkboard, almost entirely filled, equations about light, gravity, space and time. Some familiar, others completely alien. Near it, a half-finished letter addressed to someone named Maliva. Then, the door creaks. A figure emerges from the narrow hallway. Unkempt hair that defies gravity, eyes that burn with intelligence and amusement. A shirt buttoned wrong. Slippers instead of shoes. He looks at you, tilts his head, and smirks. "Ah," he says in a thick German accent. "You saw the E=mc² sheet on the table, yes? You peeked, didn't you?" You chuckle nervously. He walks over, picks up a smoking pipe, and takes a puff. The room feels like a cross between a laboratory and a symphony hall. "Don't worry," he adds. "Curiosity is not a sin. It's a gift." And just like that, without any grand announcement or ceremony, you've begun your life living under the same roof as Albert Einstein, the man who bed time, split the atom, and challenged the soul of the modern world. Little do you know, this will be more than just a living arrangement. It will be a front row seat to genius, and a journey into the fragile, flawed, and deeply human heart behind one of the greatest minds in history. You get used to waking up to the faint squeak of chalk on slate. The living room wall has long since stopped being just a wall, it's a blackboard now, nearly every inch covered in cryptic equations, diagrams of curved space, and notations about the expansion of the universe. Some mornings, you catch him mid-thought, still in his robe, scribbling furiously about cosmology from 1931, the year he wrestled with the infamous cosmological constant, a term he would later call his greatest blunder, yet secretly revisit again and again. Living with Einstein is like living inside the mind of the universe. The coffee table is always a mess, stacks of scientific journals, music sheets, postcards from friends in Zurich, a broken fountain pen, and always, always, a burned-out match or two from his pipe-smoking rituals. The smell of cherrywood tobacco lingers in the cushions. It becomes familiar, comforting, even. He has his patterns. Late afternoons are reserved for long walks, hands clasped behind his back, mumbling to himself in German. After dinner, he often disappears into the corner of the apartment where his violin rests. You'll hear the soft, trembling notes of Mozart, Bach, or Vivaldi floating down the hall. His eyes close when he plays, not from fatigue, but from reverence. He once told you, music doesn't just soothe the mind. It liberates the soul. On some evenings, if he's feeling talkative, he'll motion for you to sit near the fireplace. He'll speak of light as if it were poetry, of gravity as if it were philosophy. And sometimes, mid-conversation, he'll pause, not to gather his thoughts, but to write one down before it escapes. The apartment itself feels like a cross between a time machine and a living museum. Every object has a story. A crumpled letter from Freud about peace. A rusty compass from his childhood that first made him wonder how invisible forces work. A broken clock he never fixed, claiming that time didn't need his permission to move. And amidst it all, you learn to adjust, not just to the disarray, but to the quiet brilliance behind it. You start to notice patterns in his madness, tenderness in his stubbornness, and meaning in the silence between violin notes. It's not just a home. It's a portal into the private world of a man who dared to bend reality, and still made time to feed the birds on the windowsill. At first, living with Einstein feels like sharing space with a quirky old professor, eccentric, brilliant, absent-minded. But slowly, the layers peel back. You begin to sense that behind the playful smile and pipe smoke, there are shadows, secrets, regrets, and controversies that time has tried, but failed, to bury. One evening, while helping him organize old documents, you come across a faded newspaper clipping and a strange photograph of a brain preserved in glass. He sees the confusion on your face and sighs. "That's me," he says quietly. Or rather, what was taken from me. After his death, his brain was removed during autopsy, without his family's formal consent. A pathologist, obsessed with unlocking the secret of genius, sliced it into over 200 pieces, sending samples across the globe to neuroscientists, psychologists, and laboratories. For decades, portions of his mind sat in jars, traveling from hand to hand like artifacts from a mythology no one fully understood. He doesn't talk about it often. When he does, it's with a kind of tired amusement, mixed with a deep discomfort. They wanted to understand me, but they forgot to ask who I was. And then, there's Liesel. It starts with a letter, tucked inside an old notebook, written in soft cursive to someone named L. You ask him gently, and after a long pause, he tells you the story. Long before fame, while still a young man in love with his first wife, Maliva Merrick, they had a daughter, Liesel, born out of wedlock in the shadows of societal expectation. What happened to her remains a mystery. Some say she died young. Others whisper she was given away. She never appeared in public records again. And yet, Einstein kept her memory alive in scattered letters, letters filled with longing, apology, and unspoken sorrow. Even a man who understands the curvature of the cosmos, he says one night, can fail to grasp the weight of a father's absence. And then, the darkest chapter. In 1933, as the Nazi regime rose to power, Einstein, an outspoken Jewish intellectual, was marked. His home in Germany was ransacked. His books were burned. His name appeared on an assassination list. For 3 weeks, he hid in a friend's cottage in Norfolk, England, sleeping in fear, listening for footsteps that might never come. That silence scarred him. He left Europe not just as an exile, but as a man transformed. No longer just a physicist, he became a moral voice, fierce, unflinching, and painfully aware of the world's capacity for cruelty. Years later, he would look back on that time and say, "It was not relativity that changed me. It was hate and silence." You begin to see that the man the world worships as a symbol of brilliance is also a mosaic of contradictions, fragile, flawed, and deeply human. Behind the blackboard formulas and violin solos lives a man who lost a daughter, feared for his life, and watched the world unravel in war. And yet, he kept creating, kept hoping, kept questioning. As the weeks pass, you begin to realize Einstein's genius wasn't limited to physics. His mind wandered far beyond the chalkboard into the messy, burning questions of war, justice, identity, and conscience. Some nights, long after midnight, you find him sitting by the fireplace, an old envelope trembling in his hands. It's a copy of a letter, yellowed, creased at the corners, addressed to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. It was the letter, the one he co-signed with physicist Leo Szilard in 1939, warning the US government that Nazi Germany might be developing an atomic bomb. That letter helped ignite the Manhattan Project. He never forgets it. "I thought we were preventing catastrophe," he says, voice barely above a whisper. "Instead, we lit a new one." After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the regret crushed him. He never worked on the bomb itself, but felt its weight all the same. "I made one signature," he once said, "and millions paid for it." From then on, his science carried a shadow, a question not of what could be done, but whether it should. But his activism didn't end with physics. He spoke openly and often about racial injustice, something many found uncomfortable coming from a theoretical physicist. In 1946, at Lincoln University, a historically black college, he stood at a podium and said, "Racism is America's worst disease." He didn't just speak. He acted. When famed African-American opera singer Marian Anderson was denied a hotel room in Princeton because of her race, Einstein invited her to stay at his home. It wasn't a one-time gesture. She became a regular guest. In his cluttered apartment, where test tubes sat beside teacups, you hear stories that few ever heard. Stories of silent defiance, of letters he sent to senators, of meetings with civil rights leaders behind closed doors. And then there are the nights of philosophy. Every Thursday, like clockwork, a few aging intellectuals gather in the kitchen. The air thickens with cigar smoke and the smell of boiled eggs, Einstein's favorite midnight snack. The debates begin gently, but soon voices rise like a symphony of ideas. They call themselves, jokingly, the Olympia Academy, a revival of Einstein's youth, when he and friends in Bern met to discuss Kant, Hume, and the nature of existence. Now older, they argue about Spinoza's God, the ethics of science, the illusion of free will. Sometimes, he looks over at you and smiles, as if inviting you into the chaos. To understand the universe, he says, you must first accept that most of it is unknowable. It's in these moments you understand what made Einstein more than a scientist. He was a rebel of thought, a dissenter of silence, someone who didn't just ask how things worked, but why we should care. And every night, in that quiet apartment filled with music, smoke, and questions, you feel the echo of something bigger than equations. A restless soul still seeking moral clarity in a world addicted to power. It is a cold, windless night. The sky above is heavy, veiled in dense clouds that blot out the stars. The kind of night that feels suspended in time. You and Einstein sit together on the old wooden terrace behind the apartment, wrapped in wool blankets, mugs of lukewarm tea in your hands, and silence hanging between you like unspoken gravity. The only sound is the soft creak of his rocking chair. He gazes into the sky, eyes distant. His hair, more silver now than light, dances gently with the breeze. And then, almost as if to himself, he speaks. "I've been validated by 1,000 proofs," he murmurs. Praised, awarded, quoted endlessly. But lately, I wonder whether science has lost something sacred. Its soul. You say nothing. Because in that moment, nothing needs to be said. He turns to you, slowly, and places a worn envelope in your lap. It feels heavy, not in weight, but in meaning. The paper is yellowed, corners softened by time. Inside, you find 3 folded items. A long, handwritten letter to Mahatma Gandhi, never sent, filled with admiration and sorrow. Einstein writes about peace, nonviolence, and the terrifying irony of his own role in ushering in an age of nuclear fear. A half-finished note to his lost daughter, Liesel. The ink falters halfway through a sentence. It's more confession than correspondence, about absence, regret, and the love he never got to show. And, almost absurdly, a patent draft for a refrigerator he co-designed years ago, a machine that could operate without electricity, meant for the poor in places without power. The sketch is annotated with frantic notes, equations scribbled in the margins. "These 3, he says softly, are the parts of me the world didn't ask for. The parts they never saw." You look at him. His eyes are tired now, but still piercing, like they're measuring not just time, but truth. "Don't just solve problems," he continues. His voice is slower, more deliberate. "Anyone can do that. Question their purpose. That's what matters." He leans back in his chair and closes his eyes. For a while, the world stands still. No formulas. No lectures. Just the rustle of leaves and the rhythm of 2 hearts in quiet company. In that final night together, you don't talk about black holes or quantum theory. You talk about forgiveness. About kindness. About the weight of genius, and the loneliness it brings. Before heading back inside, he pats your shoulder and says, almost with a smile, "The universe is expanding, but don't forget to look inward, too." The next morning, he's gone. Peacefully. No farewell letter. No dramatic end. Just an empty teacup by the chair, and a violin resting beside it. But he left you something more enduring than any theory. A reminder that even the brightest mind must be guided by the deepest heart. Thank you, Albert Einstein. Thank you for the theories that didn't just reshape our understanding of the universe, but reshaped how we see ourselves within it. For showing us that space can bend, time can stretch, and light always finds a way forward. Thank you for teaching us that the pursuit of truth isn't just about numbers on a blackboard, it's about wonder, doubt, and the courage to ask questions no one else dares to. Thank you for standing against the machinery of hatred when it would have been safer to stay silent. For speaking out against war, even when the bombs bore your name. For marching against racism, even when your skin didn't carry the burden of it. For sheltering those whom the world pushed into the shadows, and for reminding us that silence, too, is a choice. Thank you for your violin in the dark. For the fragile, trembling notes that carried your soul when words and formulas could not. For the late nights of Bach and Mozart echoing in smoky rooms, reminding us that beauty is not a luxury, but a need. Thank you for the pipe smoke that lingered long after your thoughts had drifted away. For the mismatched socks, the scribbled notes in the margins, the old letters never sent. Thank you for your flaws, your regrets, your unfinished sentences. For the daughter you lost and never forgot. For the mistakes you admitted, and the humility with which you carried them. You reminded us that even a genius, a legend, can be deeply, achingly human. You reminded us that the mind is powerful, but the heart must guide it. That science must serve conscience. That knowledge means nothing if it forgets compassion. We heard you, Albert. We still hear you. In the silence of classrooms, in the pages of journals, in the quiet courage of those who dare to think differently. We remember you, not just as a brilliant scientist, but as a restless spirit. Always searching, always questioning, always hoping that humanity might catch up with its intellect. Thank you for the equations, for the music, for the truth, and most of all, for the reminder that to truly understand the universe, we must never stop trying to understand each other.